Welcome back to This Was Supposed to Be Easy, your go-to podcast for connection, joy, and a good dose of laughter.
Hosted by two friends who've seen enough of life to know that it's never as simple as it sounds
or looks.
Each conversation celebrates the diverse journeys we travel, the moments of bravery, the strength we didn't know we had, and the joy we find along the way.
Because let's be honest, life is full of things that were supposed to be easy, but turned out to be harder.
And definitely funnier
than we thought. This is Amy.
And this is Cheryl. And if it were easy, we wouldn't be here. Amy, in a recent episode, I think that I mentioned that I was sort of looking forward to wintering. And then later on, as we were together and also in virtual meetings, I think I used the word enough times that you sort of asked me this question of, can you tell me what wintering means to you? Because I'm not sure if I'm understanding exactly what you're talking about. And so the other day we had that conversation. I just sort of started talking about some books that I've read on wintering. I know that I have a book called Making Winter that really focuses in on hygge and some of the cozy things that you can do to winter. But I have another book that I've read called Wintering, where I read it and thought about the season of winter, but didn't necessarily want to do all of the things that were talked about in that book. And so I thought that maybe this might just be the right time of year to dig into that a little bit more.
Yes, I mean, especially when we are experiencing sub-zero weather, and I think all of us would love to have some soup, and I know I've been carrying around multiple blankets, and I definitely feel like life, even though we're right before the holidays, when we're recording this, I feel like I'm at a crossroads between that pull to kind of go into hibernation wintering mode because it is so cold and I'm ready to do some of those things. And some things are coming to a close where I also feel like I can't slow down yet because I still have tasks left undone. In my own head, like I'm kind of struggling with those two things. So I'm so happy you kept bringing like us back to the idea of wintering. And so I want to know, like, what did you kind of come to the conclusion then? Like, how do you describe it so I can meet you there? Because I'm ready. I'm ready.
I know, I'm so ready to winter. And even hearing you say that, I have that bingo card in my head. And what did I do this year that allowed me to make little hearts instead of crossing things off on my bingo card? And what didn't I do? And we're at that time of year where we sort of start thinking ahead and thinking forward at the same time that we're analyzing, what did I get done and what didn't I get done? But when I think about looking forward to wintering, I think I feel this, there's this moment where maybe for me, it's a busy semester is finally over and the sunlight time period of the day is a lot shorter. And so I think I slow down in the evenings a little bit earlier than maybe I do in the summer, and just think, how can I capitalize on that? Right? How can I capitalize on the darkness of the season and grabbing those cozy blankets and maybe being a little more present, a little more thoughtful, and giving myself the opportunity to pause a little bit more and enjoy some things that are just for me. Maybe that means I'm grabbing my knitting needles and some thread or yarn that, inspires me, or making some things, getting out my urge and my need to make, but just like creating some time and some space to not have to produce as much. At the same time that I'm thinking about, what do I want to do next year? My hands are doing a 6-7 motion right now.
I know, right? That juggle, yeah, 6-7, 6-7. Yeah, as a mom, but okay, so that ties in really well, though. The 6-7 part does because so my youngest is 13,
Okay.
Like, I have a 20-year-old and a 16-year-old who both can drive. My 16-year-old recently got a job that takes him kind of out of the house in the evening until, like, 10 o'clock at night a couple nights a week, and we don't go to bed before he gets home from work. It's just a thing I have in myself. So
Mhm.
I'm still having to stay up, and I have this 13-year-old who is wanting to go to the gym a couple nights a week in addition to going to the gym and going to the school to watch some basketball games, and then he wants to try out for basketball, and all of these types of things too that still kind of keep me going
Mhm.
even after it's dark out, and literally I'm looking at the clock going, "Why are you dragging me out of the house at 11 o'clock at night?" And I'm like, "Oh, because it's only 5:30."
Right.
Like, it's that, like, my body is in full on, like, pajamas and, a lovely glass of tea kind of mode under a blanket, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you haven't eaten dinner yet? What? Oh, okay." That type of thought. So, it's that split that I'm really struggling with right now because, again, I'm so ready. Like, I want to winter. And also too, that reflective piece. I am noticing myself naturally reflecting a lot. And I don't know if
Yeah.
it's this end part of the year or having my bingo card and we're getting prepped to make new bingo cards. Another thing that I do that I started doing 2 years ago is I saw it on TikTok. I think I've mentioned it here before, but it's wishing ritual
Yes.
that I yes, and I absolutely love, and so I have, like, 2 nights because I always started on the winter solstice, and so it's time to go back and reflect over the last 12 months, and then also the one wish that I had to do this year that I was kind of conscientious about and really reflect, did I meet that wish? And go back and look at the other 12 wishes that I then, kind of put out into the universe and did those actually happen in the way that I wanted or I thought about them last year? Because here's the thing that I think is also really important with that. I had a phone call from this gentleman this week at the beginning of the year, had been working on putting together my business and LLC. And when I was originally doing that, I was really leaning into coaching and the coaching business that I want to do. And I still want to.
Mhm.
I do a lot of coaching for my day job right now, but I'm just kind of a natural coach. We've always talked about that in
Yeah.
reflection anyway. But it's as he was asking me all these questions about my original goals and when I was setting up, it was really interesting to think about how things had kind of shifted over this year between, having less time than I thought I would, more time was dedicated to school. Traveling really picked up at the later part of this year, even though traveling's pretty consistent throughout my life anyway, which I love, and I would actually even say this year I had more traveling than I even imagined back in January. I know my falls get busy, but I traveled a lot this year, which was amazing. Trips that I never thought I'd get to take. I was promoted in my job, so I took on a little more traveling even within my work, which was awesome. But I was thinking about all these things that they shifted, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
now I think too, in that reflection period, it's how did things really turn out? So it's not even like a yes or no, like, did this wish come true? It's more of a thought of like, did this come true in the way, or did this happen in the way I thought December me of 2024 wanted it
Wanted.
to
Yeah.
happen
Yeah.
versus it worked out, but it worked out looking different. And then so then my thought is, am I happy with the way that it worked out looking different? And or do I still want to pursue it in the way that I originally thought? Or do I want to take this new reflection into 2026?
I
So there's a
I
lot that's
yeah.
percolating.
I think I hear you saying I think I hear you saying a lot of things, but one of the things I think you're saying is that as you reflect back, you're open to not looking at those wishes as success or failure, but instead looking at them and thinking, how can I be open to the shifts that happened and easily could have happened open up more than I had even known to wish for. How could that difference be even better?
We talked about bingo cards. We talked about those at the midpoint in
Mhm.
January, and I know we're going to talk about them again. We have some cool things that are coming up that we want to talk about that. But I was reflecting on my bingo card just actually this week, and I was crossing some of the things off. And my oldest, my daughter was like, don't get too in depth because we have to do that on New Year's Eve. We want to really look at like what we did. So she's like, don't do it too much. But one of the things that I had written was have a successful first year in my PhD program.
Yeah.
And thinking about that, I feel like it was really left open to interpretation
Mhm.
because that's not a SMART goal. Like, I am very much a SMART goal person. I teach people how to do SMART goals. Is it measurable? Is it, relevant? Is it timely? And so if that was a SMART goal, it would be, did I complete all my classes with a 3.0 or better? Did I,
Mhm.
and that wasn't when I wrote it down, that wasn't what I was thinking about because I hadn't even started it yet,
You didn't know
and so I
what
think
you didn't
there's
know.
right, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I have used that phrase so much in the last month of not knowing what you don't know, and I use that even too, like, you don't know what questions to ask when you don't know enough about it,
Mhm.
type of a thing, like, more questions come when you do that. So, can I mark that off? I believe I had a really successful year. I'm happy with the grades I got. I completed every class that I took. I'm still in the program. I'm still moving forward. I learned a ton. I met really amazing people, some that I now even call friends over the last year. I've made relationships. I've looked at new organizations. Like, there's a lot that I could reflect back on and say, yes, that was a positive. That I don't know if I would reflect back on and look if I would have put the did you, earn a 3.0 or better in every class and say that is measurable. However, again, it's still really open to interpretation. So then as I think about that in my brain, I'm kind of going back and forth with the measuring it in interpretation, that
Mhm.
loose, not SMART goal, but like, how do I feel about it? Like, how do I really feel? Did I feel like I was successful? Did I feel
Mhm.
like it met the needs that I had going into it? Am I excited about next year? Those types of things versus the concrete. And
Yeah.
so then it makes me think though, what goals do I have that I need the concrete and what ones do I need the reflection?
Well, Amy, it's your dang bingo card,
Right.
right?
True. True.
So
Yes.
it should be open to your interpretation. But
Yes.
SMART goals are important. SMART goals are very valuable, especially in an organization, in a business. When we're making our bingo cards, it's about us and sometimes it's about our feelings and sometimes it's about our emotions. And I mean, I had things on my bingo card that I haven't accomplished, like get a massage. Come on, Cheryl, just go, go book the massage and get it. But I feel like this is a space where it's almost about self-care and who I want to be in this next year or whatever. And I think there should be space for a lot of different ways to approach it without having an internal criticism even of ourselves, if that lands. I don't know.
It does, Lynn, and I think it's, we've talked a lot over this year about giving ourselves grace, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so being able to, and so as I'm doing any type of reflection, I'm trying to be mindful of myself. I don't think I failed, and failed is where I kind of put that critique at anything. I think I've reprioritized my time, effort, energy, and resources into a way that is reflected on me. So, like, one of the things on the bingo card was learn to crochet. I don't know how to crochet any more today than I did 12 months ago, than I know 6 months ago when I brought that one up before, when we talked about it with Taylor, your daughter,
mhm.
who is amazing, amazing at all of those things. I have talked to other people who have knit and they've said they would help me. Like, I have had opportunities and I still cannot do it. I have watched so many TikToks. I have liked and followed for more content on how to crochet, like people that have made like their own full like dresses that are gorgeous. I now can tell you the pattern. I have not picked up a hook and a piece of yarn at all to do this, but I have also reprioritized my time in a way that I can say I have done things to the nth degree that I never thought I was going to do this year
Mhm. A
because
and
I
you
reprioritized those
you
things. Like,
still dipped your toes in though, right? Like,
good.
you still watched people crochet a little bit when you talk about your TikToks. You opened yourself up to ideas about what could happen with crochet. You just maybe aren't there yet in terms of taking the step of giving it a shot, and that's not again, that's just, "I've explored this. I might not have learned how to do it yet, but I did give myself the opportunity to explore it." Yeah.
And you know what, though? This is something that is interesting. Even as we're talking, this is an interesting reflection that literally just pops into my head. One of the whole reasons that I wanted to learn to crochet was because I wanted to give my hands something to do in the evening that wasn't game playing on my phone.
Mhm.
And this year, back in I was just realizing how much time I was actually sinking into the mindless games on your phone, and they're fun. Believe me, I took years of, like, moving pieces of fake cake from platter to platter. Like, I have done the games, and I have no shame to anyone who is an avid game player. But when I was setting some plans for myself this time last year, and I was really trying to think about how I was gonna do grad school. One of the things I said was, I have to recoup time, I have to find time, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things I was gonna be doing is I knew I was gonna be coming off of a 6-year commitment of being a board member, and so I was like, "Okay, this is time that I could have recouped." But then really early on, I realized it wasn't apples to apples because I was really good. I had 6 years of practice for something, and then I was gonna be new at something again, and the
Mhm.
time was gonna be different. So
Mhm.
what I did was I uninstalled every game that I had on my phone, and I said, I'm gonna give up games. Like, that's not how I'm gonna spend my time when I have my phone in hand anymore." So I thought, "Okay, I've read James Clear and Habits and all of those things, like, I'm gonna need to give myself my hands something new to do. So I'm gonna teach myself how to crochet." And so I think too, the reason I wanted to do it, I actually found didn't match because I found my evenings being more inclined to doing schoolwork. I was attending my classes, I was going to study groups, I was doing schoolwork, I was doing those things. And then I found myself like hanging out with my kids or my spouse or doing those types of things where I wasn't holding my phone as much even in general. And so now I still want to teach myself to crochet, but I want to for a different reason. One of the things that I recently recognized, I think I've even talked about it in a episode, was about the idea of like grandma crafts and just slowing down your brain. I want to do it now for that repetitiveness of learning how to slow down my brain because my brain moves all the time. So I want it for a different reason
Yeah.
versus where I thought I wanted it this
Yeah.
time last year.
Yeah. So one of the people that I follow sometimes, and now I'm not going to even think of her last name, but her first name is Gabby, and she does a lot of work with manifestation and your thoughts. And one of the things I recently heard her talk about was not just having this intention and writing it down and saying, okay, now it's going to happen at some point in time, but to really think about what are the feelings behind the intention. What are the feelings I envision myself having as I think about learning how to crochet? And using those feelings as a driving force for your goal. And so it might not end up that crochet is the thing that brought you that feeling, but that if you really think about why did I really think I wanted this, you might have found that in another way.
Right.
And I just, as I hear you talk about that, I just keep thinking about when I talk about wintering, and maybe I'm circling back here a little bit, but give me this moment.
Absolutely. You
When I
have it.
talk about wintering, what I've felt in the past few weeks over and over again is this deep desire for rest. I did a 1 hour webinar last week that was about true restorative rest. And I was reading a newsletter that came into my email just yesterday. And as I went through that newsletter, there was this section on the art of productive rest. And I was like, ooh, I don't want to produce. I just want to rest, you know? But as I looked at this wheel of productive rest, and it really kind of broke it down into categories that helped me think about mental rest and emotional rest, even intellectual rest, social rest. I started realizing that what I think I find in wintering is that when I rest, it gives my brain the space to reflect.
Mhm.
And in that reflection, I just automatically start thinking about, what do I want? What are those feelings that I want to have? What are those activities that sound intriguing to me or inspiring to me? And by virtue of resting or wintering or giving myself that space, it allows the reflection that moves me into what's next. What did I think I want? What does that look like now? And how do I move forward with that?
That makes me think of one of those discussions that I heard this year about the idea that we're not bored enough anymore.
Mhm.
And, that you need boredom, even though boredom often can be a negative term, but you need boredom to think about to think.
To
I
think,
guess
to
I think
think.
just to think, like, I think that's the complete sentence. And I think with our phones and commitments, we don't have enough time to be bored.
Mhm.
And so what I really hear you saying with that is that you're craving the space for boredom, but in the best way possible. Like not a negative, like you're craving the space to think, you're craving the space to be, you're craving the space for all of that. So I guess then with me saying that, do you feel, because we've talked about needing rest, right? Do you feel like of the types of rest that there's 1 or 2 right now that you are really wanting to lean into?
I want to lean into a little bit more of the coziness that I'm always craving, right? So I want to lean into softness and maybe a few less boundaries, if that makes sense. I want to, I think that's maybe the comfort piece of wintering. Like I said, just I don't know why yarn keeps coming up to me, but maybe touching some materials that originated in nature. Whether it is working with yarn or Amy, we talked a little bit about creating we talked about resin, but then I told you I had found a different material, jasmonite or jesmonite that
Right, but you
are,
kept talking about flowers with
yeah.
that too, and I know flowers are your
Yes,
thing.
yeah, I wanna, like, make some pots, and I want to plant some seeds and play with some dirt, and I just think that right now, as I think about wintering and rest in those spaces, I want to use my I don't know, my hands while I'm drinking that tea, and I'm gonna throw this little sidebar in. My sister knows me, right? And
Mhm,
she knows my passion for florals and flowers, and she sent me this gorgeous kit of all floral based teas. They're beautiful. They're like in this pyramid, silk pyramid shape. So it can
mhm,
just sit in the bottom of your cup. And that reminded me that when I was in Italy last year, I found this almost Tervis like teacup. So it's got a hollow interior to
mhm,
insulate. But in that hollow interior are pieces of silk that look like flowers, petals, and leaves, and they move around inside that interior space. And so I made myself a bag of this gorgeous tea that turned purple as the hot water hit it. It was this perfect, making the tea that she sent me, finding the cup to put it in that also had reminded me of flowers, and just being able to sit there and drink it took me into this cozy, restful state that felt good. It was that softness I was craving, especially if I had it in a place where there was just a little more silence, fewer words being spoken, which is funny that I'm saying as our podcast is clearly about talking, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
it was comfort that felt like an indulgence, but actually was comfort that was giving me space to think and reflect and grow from the rest, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. And so, geez, what was even what type of rest is appealing to me? I think it's a little bit about an intellectual rest and an emotional rest that will create space for future growth in intellect and emotion. Does that make sense?
It does. It's interesting because as you were kind of reading those lists of the different types of rest, I kind of went to intellect rest in a different way. And so for myself, I've been saying, over this break. So flash forward, I know recently I talked about getting a break from school. It's the first time I'm getting a break since I started in January. Literally,
Mhm.
my classes end Sunday night. I start a new class on Monday morning. And I've done this in 8-week increments. I have literally lived my life in 8-week increments all year long. And so I am finally getting a break until January 12th-ish. And I have said, like, there are so many books I want to read right now,
Yeah.
but I want to read romance novels. I
Mush.
want to read mush. I want to read like fun books
It's
with
like the
like
Hallmark movie, you don't have to think, you can just
yes,
enjoy.
yes, I
Yeah.
want that, like, on my work mind, I wanna, finish reading the new well, I'm right in the middle of listening to The Anxious Generation, I wanna listen and or read Brené Brown's book from start to finish, her new one, Strong Ground,
Yep.
like, I have all these books but, like, that all feels
We're school.
that's for next year. Right, like, that's
Yeah.
school. Like, that's school, that's work, that's, like and even though I love that type, I want a glass of tea, a blanket, and I wanna not think I want 2 people to fall in love while walking through a small town eating pie. I don't know, I want a Hallmark movie wrapped up in, like, stability
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
nothing that I'm really going, like, I didn't have to think too hard with it." And
Yeah.
so when I think about intellectual time and rest, that's what I want. Like,
Yeah.
even though I love having big thinks. Like I recently went to a conference and I'm taking notes at every session and I'm like, yes, yes, I could do it this way and we could incorporate like I love those big thoughts and incorporation and I'm like I don't want to do it. Like right now after I walked away from that I was like, okay, and powering down. Like
Yeah.
I literally for the last few weeks have envisioned almost a little like caricature meme of like myself crawling to the finish line of this year and
Mhm.
even though I it's not the year that I'm looking like, this year was a great year, I'm looking to get to the finish line of go, 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 go.
Yeah, you still have to give yourself permission to rest, to slow
Yeah,
down so that when things start back up again, you're ready, right?
right.
You don't have to be ready right now, but right now maybe you do need to slow down and enjoy that rest so that you can be ready. I mean, I'm just going to say, Amy, I see this turning into part 1 and part 2, right? Like right now we're talking about permission to slow down and winter and not maybe thinking about what might come next, but not doing it yet, right? Like what
Right.
parts of ourselves are really presenting that they need to winter for a little bit because if we give that to ourselves as a season, it will allow the productivity and creativity that we also love. And it will
Mhm.
be better because we gave ourselves the time to rest.
Right. So let's put that out to our audience. I think that's kind of what you were doing, but let's be explicit
Explicit.
and blatant in our ask. So as you are listening, whether you're listening from your car, your living room, your bedroom, whatever you're doing, walking, taking the dog for a walk, picking up kids, what rest do you need right now? And maybe mention a few of the different ones again. What are the rests out there?
Okay, so this amazing wheel that I found, the categories are spiritual rest, sensory rest. And Amy, I'm going to say this kind of quietly. I think I've texted you and a few of our friends this week saying, I just need some silence, right? So sensory
Okay.
rest. physical rest, mental rest, emotional rest, social rest, and I think maybe I started with this, but in case I didn't, intellectual rest. We'll make sure those are in the show notes for people who do want to
Yeah.
just sit with that and think about that because we are closing in on, there's like about a week left in this year. Where do we need to give ourselves the rest to open up the space for us to think about and talk about how do we gently move forward?
Thanks for tuning in to This Was Supposed to Be Easy. Remember, the best stories are the ones we live.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep the conversation going because life may not be easy, but listening in should be.
Stay curious, stay connected, and keep wondering.